Okay, so we've made it to week 4 of Fab Feb. Our last week actually in February, because next week is March. So anyway, all the fun things. For those of you catching the recording, have your workbook, and then the oil to have would be bergamot. If you don't have it, the substitutes were lime, whisper, and something else. I don't remember. So who I have down for completing the homework, Laura Whip, Lisa, Emily, Sonia, Kelsey, Meg. If I'm missing somebody, please tell me, okay? Okay, so today we're doing, D, you did it too. Did I miss you, D? Sorry, thank you. Oh yeah, D, you did it. I have you down on, yeah, thanks, friend. Okay, so in our workbooks, we're gonna be on page 28, all right? And today we're talking about follow-up appointments, wellness consults, whatever you wanna call them. There's a lot of different things you could call them, right? Some people call them like oil unboxings or open your kit date. You can really call it whatever you want. I might even call it different terms as we keep going, but I think we all understand what I'm referring to. So what are some of the things that come to your mind when we talk about this topic? It can be anything. There are no wrong answers. Throw it in the chat or unmute yourself. What do you think about? What do you feel? Better open the chat so I can see. You guys feel nothing so far, which is okay. Say it again, Sonia.
Are we talking wellness consults?
Yeah. What do you feel about when you see that the topic for this week is wellness consults?
I'm excited because I want to learn more. I always get like anxious, like, oh, which one do I use? Do I use the Live Guide? Do I use my top 10 oils and just go through that? Like which pamphlet or brochure or whatever do I use?
Sonia gets bonus points because she's actually excited to hear what I have to say. Okay, Lisa Socher struggled to get them to choose a date. Laura Whipperman, this is the fun part, but it often takes too long for one sitting. But definitely, these are all really good. M says she loves the follow-up appointment. I feel like this is where M has individualization as your number one. It's in your top 5. If you have individualization in your top 5, like this is like you probably really thrive at a follow-up appointment. It's probably like in your zone of genius. Good. What other things? Mom, you love doing them, but people wiggle out of them. So there seems to be some consensus on, so far people like doing them. Some of us are unsure about them. Getting people pinned down. I want to be concise, but not overwhelming. It's a lot of information to convey, right? Like we know they're just at the tip of the iceberg and we're probably all in our brains thinking of the journey that we've all been on for mostly, many of us, years, right? And that's like overwhelming, I think. Melissa did she remembers yours. That's nice. Laura Whipperman remembers when Melissa did yours. Good job, Mom. Yeah, if you don't set it when they order, they never give you a date. That's really true. We'll talk about that too. Okay, I love this. This is good. Okay, so we're going to talk about a lot of these things. If you have other things that come up, please throw them out there. So I have like a couple, it's like, we'll call it random thoughts with Amy. They're not necessarily in a specific system, but different thoughts that I just want to address when it comes to follow-up appointments. I would actually write these down, like at least like the main ideas. You might be able to jot it down. There might be room in you can write it over these people and like a Sharpie. I don't know. Do it however you want to do it. Type, I don't care. Okay. So the first thought for you on a follow-up appointment is pursue service. Like I want you to like just like blaze that in your brain actually for every interaction you have when it comes to doTERRA, but it's pursue service. And I'm telling you, when you pursue service, when you show up to serve, which is what we all want to do and we just all get in our heads. We all just get in our heads. But when you pursue service, it's in that service, you will eventually receive what you want. The things that have us in our head. Will they enroll? Will they be on LRP? Will I do this well? Will I talk about the business? What will they say? What will they do? When you just simply pursue, I realize this sounds really simplistic, and I know it's not. I know this is complex. I don't mean to diminish the complexity of this sometimes, but if you can remind yourself to pursue service, things will fall into place, okay? So that's my first thought for you. Second, this one is straight from Laura Jacobs. You're only as good as your next interaction. And so what she means by this is that you're always in your conversations with people, not just when it comes to the wellness consult, but in all of your doTERRA journey, you're always leading people to the next step and the next conversation, so that things don't just drop off and feel super awkward and miserable and hard. So you're always leading people to the next step. Purchasing a kit isn't the end of the road. Setting up your LRP isn't the end of the road. Like, never the end of the road. It's not a one and done. This is how we live our life. We live our life using our oils. We live our life, in relationships and caring for people with their oils. This is like not just a single thing. So if you drop those next steps off, if you just leave somebody with a kit, if you even just leave somebody after a follow-up appointment with nothing else after, we'll talk about that, the relationship will drop off too. So you have to keep you're only as good as your next interaction in your brain, so that you're still moving them along on that, right? And also, when you set the expectation that there is going to be a next interaction, you stop being a stalker. You eliminate that. We talked about like that, and you see that in asking permission for things like, I'm going to follow up with you in 2 days and see what you thought of the sample. It's the same idea, right? You eliminate that weirdness. Okay, so 2 was you're only as good as your next interaction. 3 is a really long one. How do I make it concise? 3 is you have to earn the right to be paid. So there's some maybe some, I don't mean to come off like sassy in these things, but I just think there's some truth for all of us in this. Your customers don't owe you anything. Like, you do earn the right to be paid by the activities that you do. If you don't earn the trust of your customer, if you don't take the time to invest in them and their wellness, if you aren't intentional about setting these appointments and meetings, you're not going to earn anything. You're not going to earn the right to be paid. So if you somewhere along the road, and a lot of us have felt this in different ways, if you're not, if you're feeling a little unsure about your paycheck, a good question to ask yourself is, am I actually earning the right to be paid? Am I showing up and doing the things that I need to do? And a wellness consult definitely falls into that. And if you're not showing up to those, you are not earning your paycheck will never look like what you thought it would. It's a very important piece. Okay. Okay, 4 is to be intentional. So this is, all of us might have different feelings about the whole idea of setting intentions, and I'm fine with that. But there is truth to having intentionality behind what you do. So when you're prepping for the actual conversation of setting that wellness consult, what are your intentions with that, right? Like, have to know that you have to schedule it. You have to schedule it when you are face to face with them and they've made the decision to have oils in their home. Like, you have to. And so that's the number one way to make sure that people aren't canceling on you or you're missing out on this. The second thing that you're going to have to do is to infuse a sense of value into what you're offering. Which, on a side note, if you don't actually believe in the value of what you're offering in a wellness consult, they're not going to either, right? So hopefully we're going to help you with that. But really infusing a sense of value by making it all about them, which it is all about them. You might even want to ask them to think about themselves and their family and write down a few of those health priorities, and we're going to, go over them together or go over them again in this wellness consult, like helping them, putting them in that space ahead of time. You can even, we'll talk about tools that you can use. If you use a Live Guide, you can give that to them at the class. So they're thinking about that ahead of time. You're putting them in that brain space before you even meet them. Laura Jacobs even says that you can, at doterra.com, they have a recording of a lifestyle overview of a wellness, I see another name for it, a lifestyle overview using the Live Guide. And she says you can really leverage that and have them watch that first and then still meet with them, right? You can layer those tools on top of each other. Okay. And then what about like your intentions actually at the wellness consult, right? Like you're teaching them how to use what they have. You say in a class, I'm sure we all say in a class or in an appointment, a one-on-one, I don't want you to have oils that you don't know what to do with, right? Do we all, don't we all, raise your hand if you say something or something along those lines to your people? We all do. So when you are doing that, you are promising them a wellness consult. Like that's what you've promised to do for them. That's one of the biggest component of that. Okay. So other intentions for in that wellness consult is setting a daily wellness plan. Okay. Helping them with that, helping them maximize their membership, connect to resources and the community that we have. We do have a community. Okay. You take their temperature. doTERRA gives you a 14-day window to decide if they have any interest in coming alongside you in what you do. There are very, very, very few companies that give you a 14-day window. That's very generous. So you have time to take their temperature and see if they have interest in the business. Okay. So those are some of the intentions of the actual wellness consult. Okay, and this doesn't really, there really is no name and we can call it number 5, but we have to talk about enrolling in like LRP. We have to talk about the whole topic of LRP. So I feel like maybe we should take a minute here and talk about how we all actually feel about, do we have some conflicted feelings about the whole LRP thing during a wellness consult? Are we all like, having no hiccups with bringing that up or feeling like, oh, I can't ask them to buy one more thing? Or where are we at on that? How are we feeling about loyalty rewards? That's a hard question. Let's check the chat. It's of great value for them, right? I think if like we all probably sat here and just talked about it, we all know that loyalty rewards is a great value, but I think a lot of us, many of us, sometimes have a hiccup in bringing it up in the wellness consult and what that looks like in the delivery of that. It's super generous. It's literally so generous. 30% back, my friends, 30% back, right? Like we could rattle off the things that we know are amazing. So Kelsey, yes, I see the importance. I love mine, but I struggle with asking them to set up LRP because they have usually just spent a good deal of money. So it's hard for people, right? Right. That some people have felt what Kelsey feels. Yes, we've all felt
Can I say one thing to that, Aim?
that. Mm-hmm.
I feel like when I'm in a follow-up appointment, I try to gauge kind of where people are at, because I've definitely gotten that vibe, like Kelsey is saying, like people are like, oh, some people outright say like, well, I just spent a lot of money getting a kit. But kind of getting a feel for like, one, really leaning into the vitamins. Like we talk a lot about the vitamins during the follow-up appointment, and then talking more about what that would look like to try. I like set it up. Like I literally set up an LRP with people and put stuff in their cart. And I say like, you don't have to keep this, but if I get the vibe that they like don't want to spend a lot of money, or they feel like they just spent a lot of money, I say like the nice thing about LRP is that you've already made a wish list with them, right? So like this is when I first started, this was how I tried like one new oil at a time. So I didn't feel like I had to spend a ton of money at once. And then it gives you time to try one thing and then try another thing. So because I've definitely had people be like, well, I just spent $200 on this kit. And so like being respectful of that, but still being like, oh yeah, totally. You don't have to spend a ton of money. You can get this bottle of lime for, $12 or whatever. And then still get points every time. And that sometimes helps people not feel like they have to spend more money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Em. Yeah, I think that there was a lot of good things in there for sure. And we'll talk about like, maybe some of the different like logistics. That's not the word. Like in reality, how you can go about it, like some good tools you can use, right, in bringing it up and walking it through with them. But the reality is, I think we often feel like getting them on loyalty rewards, like, is it about me? Is it about them? Am I asking them to do something when they've already bought something? Is this like selfish? Is it manipulative, right? Like, we don't set the follow-up appointment because I don't want to talk about loyalty rewards, right? Like, all the things. But this is, I think what it boils down to is that on some, depending on how you present uh, your oil information, on some level, I think we've all engaged with somebody in saying, I'm going to help you change your life, change your wellness to feel better. And so there's been that in either spoken agreement or unspoken of like, we are partnering together. And if they're not engaging in the loyalty rewards program, I can honestly say, I can sit here and say they are not changing their life. They are not changing their wellness. Like, there's no way. Like, the customers that I have them too, that are still have their On Guard bottle from their original family, essentials kit 6 years ago. I have not changed their wellness. I have not at all. And so it's really helping them make the most of what they've enrolled in. Somebody said from the stage, it's like somebody buying a car, not knowing how to drive it, right? Like, just, it's getting them into that routine. And this was the other thing that I thought was really good, that this is it. Enrolling them in loyalty rewards is helping them be loyal to their lives and their health. They are being loyal to themselves, not to me, not even to doTERRA. They're being loyal to themselves and their wellness and how they feel. So then there is some, conversation that needs to be had in helping them do this in like the best way possible. But the reality is they're being loyal to themselves and their wellness by engaging in that. And I thought that was really good. Okay. So there are a lot of ways to do a wellness consult, a follow-up appointment, a lifestyle overview. There are a lot of ways to do it. And you can, Laura Whipperman alluded to this, you can even break it into multiple appointments, which I don't think is a bad idea, because it does establish the cadence of your interactions with them, and that you will be consistent and you will show up, and it furthers that relationship. Right. And if you can get it done in one, that's fine too. But so there's a lot of different ways to spin this. Okay. So hang with me. I want to go over like the most important things to cover. Like, I'm going to call them the big rocks. And then I'm going to show you a couple different resources and a couple different ways that you can go about this. Okay. I was just checking the chat. Okay. So the first, these aren't necessarily in a specific order, because I've seen these in different orders. I sometimes do these different order, depending on the resource. So the first big rock, I would say, are like resources. Like, what do they have access to now? What are you able to plug them into? That's you, that's doTERRA, that's live chat, Facebook groups. It might be Oil Camp or continuing education, which we'll talk about next week. Monthly calls, right? We have our monthly online calls that are super fun. So resources, right? Making sure they know now what they have access to and all they have for care. Okay. And in some cases, that means actually like sitting with them and helping them register for some of those things, like actually helping them. So that's one big rock, is the resources. Second would be a wellness plan. So you might create a daily protocol. You might create a 30, 60, 90 day. Like, you can, like, there's a lot of ways you can do this, but it's really helping them incorporate, like, the most important thing is helping them incorporate what they just purchased from you. So how do you help them with that? And really, one of the keys behind this is creating an environment where you're like an environment or like a reality or a lifestyle in which your new customer can actually picture themselves living that lifestyle. Okay, so wellness plan, right? Takes discernment, kind of like, feeling it out, but we all kind of know how to help somebody with that. So second was a wellness plan. Third is a wish list. That's like the third big rock. So these are the oils and products that they're going to want to add in. This is where everybody needs to be talking about lifelong vitality, because it is so foundational, so foundational. Elise's outline for lifelong vitality is in here. Has anybody seen it? What page is it? I might be on this page. It is on this page. It's on page 28. Do you guys see it at the bottom of the biggest box? It's in like the middle of the bottom of, no, number 3. If I were stranded on a desert island, that one. Okay. So she has her outline for LLV there. I think it's good. I think it's great. If you don't have an outline for lifelong vitality, boom, you've got one. Okay. And this is also for creating your wish list. You're going to want, for reasons I'm not going to bother to share on this call. Mom, do you have one of your workbooks near you? You're gone. Do you have one of the reference books, the Essential Life ones, this part? Can you get one? Okay. Thank you. This is where you're going. Yes. So Meg's got the big one, which is perfect. And then the spiral bound ones will show you, is something that you can bring to your appointment. We'll explain how you might be able to use it, leverage it, but look through a reference book, okay? Oh, you were looking for another prop. Okay, so look through a reference book, and you can use doTERRA.com, but it's really helpful to use that reference book. And we'll show it here in a minute. So it's a smaller Essential Life. You can get them down to $10 a piece, okay? And walking that through. I'm checking the chat. Oh, the 5th edition is on super sale for like $5. Meg, you know all the things. Okay, so wish list was number 3. Number 4 is helping them use their account. So you're going to help them log in. Like, we're going to go to doTERRA.com. If I'm on Zoom, I share screens. We log in, we look at it. Explain the loyalty rewards program. Set up a template with items from the wish list. I set up a cart like Em said she did. And then it is like, do you want me to save this? Or do you want, or not? It's, you give them that option. And the key here that I'm starting to implement, and you don't have to do this, some people have no problem getting on LRP, it doesn't matter, but I use that Essential Life book as a gift for setting up and shipping that LRP order, okay? So it's a great incentive. Do you guys, actually, I saw this live in action. So remember last week when we talked about the class, we were using at the close those Essential Life books to help them look up their health goals. And so I attended my first live format of this Elise Shedevy class, the Back to Basics class, and Emily was the one who was teaching it. And so I brought those Essential Life books. That's why she has them. I brought the Essential Life books, and I think people would have sold their soul for those Essential Life books. They were like, how can I get them? Where do I want them? And I was like thinking in my brain, like, what's the next step? Do I sell these? Like, do I need these? Like, what do I do? And then I remembered, I was like, Em has a pretty high success of getting people on LRP, but I'm like, they want this book. So if you say, set up the LRP and you can have this book, they see the value of the book because they've used it and they see how wonderful it can be. So it's just a thought for you there. That was kind of a tangent, but you can always gift them something for shipping that LRP order. So helping them use their account. The next big rock is setting expectations for moving forward, right? You're only as good as your next interaction. So how often are they going to hear from you? Remind them of different resources, right? And then the last big rock, I would say, and it doesn't have to just be this format. I wrote down referrals, but whether that's they're hosting a class or they're connecting with you with people, or, you're sitting down with coffee with them and a friend, I don't think it's the idea of who are they going to be connecting you to, right? So having that conversation, okay? So those are your big rocks. What tools, so I saw somebody on here that you use the Live Guide, right? What are some, or no, you said that, yep. Okay, yep, Melissa's got hers out. I actually do have mine. I didn't leave this with Emily, so I do have this. You obviously have somewhat of like some outlines and some tips in this Back to Basics workbook, right? And the other thing, does anybody remember my Google Doc? Does anybody still have my Google Doc? I'm just kidding. That's another tool as well. So Live Guide, I have a Google Doc template that I'll show you guys, and the Back to Basics workbook. So I'm actually going to share my screen, hopefully. No. Okay. Can you guys see the Google Doc okay? No, I'm not even getting a head nod. Yes, I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay, good. So this is a Google Doc I just, I make a copy of every time I have a new customer, and I put their name at the top. Lindsay King does this in a brilliant way where she uses the date. I will never be able to fully grasp it. It's that brilliant, but she uses the date so she can group people. Oh, we'll have her share about it sometime. Anyway, so they get to put their information in. They know who they have for support. I've got resources down there, the links we can just click on and pull up and register for what they want, kind of a stuff. The wellness pyramid, right? So this is going to be critical. No matter what resource you use, it is very good to be using this because it's like the foundation for like all conversations, right? And I actually hadn't thought about it in this way before, but sorry, Laura Jacobs was the woman who shared about this in Salt Lake City. But she explained how you can use this wellness pyramid to actually categorize the products that they already have, like into like, okay, we're going to focus, like it kind of creates almost like a system. We might have to talk a little bit more about that. But being able to ask which area they want to focus on the most, have them rate themselves, things like that. I always put a list of their oils that they received in there. And like at the bottom of here, I might have their health goals, written in from what they said. Like I'll go in here and take notes. Like, okay, they said sleep, they said headaches, etc. And so then I can start plugging in for them. Like, okay, so you've got your deep blue, you've got your peppermint, right? What we talked about. I do write a 30-day protocol, depending on their capacity. Sometimes it's just starting with like, let's start with 3 oils. No, 2. And let's meet in a week and a half and we'll add in 2 more oils. Like sometimes you just have to start really small. You have to use discernment, okay? And then helping them make their wish list would be the last thing. I feel like the chat box is going. Okay, can I see the chat box? Wait for it. Yeah, I can. Here we go. Do people actually use it? Sonia, do people actually use what? I'm late to the question.
Oh, Laura's question right above that. She has a document for each customer, and then they can add to that document moving forward.
I don't have people that go back to it. I use it more than my customers do. It depends on how tech savvy they are. Laura Whipperman probably does have people that do that.
Can you help a grandma out here?
Yeah.
So I do a Google Doc for every single one of my customers, and I take notes, and I do go back to it. And for years I've said, you can go back and look, and I've shared it with people, and no one's ever looked at it. But you put this template in that doc, and then you fill it in. You how do you do that?
Yep. So I go to File, and I make a copy, and I call it Melissa Werner, and then I make my notes in it. I just go from there. Is that not answering your question?
Yeah, I got it. I couldn't see it.
Oh, sorry. So here it is. So then I would just start typing it all in, and it does not affect at all this template.
Okay, and your people use these.
Well, again, I would say that I use it. We've talked about how even when we make their wish list, remember that we can then search in our Google Docs and be like, oh, all the people with peace on their wish list, or balance, and being able to search that. I use this as a tool for organization more than my customers do, I would say, but I do have people that really appreciate this organization piece and save it and refer back to it. But you kind of have to know to like add it to your drive, put it in a place where you use it. I use Google Docs probably more than the average person. Okay. I will share this, Sue. I do. I have the shareable link that I can share. Okay. So you can make a copy and edit it. Okay. So that's one way you can do it, right? There's different ways you can do it. Here is the Live Guide, right? You can download it for free from doTERRA. You can order a pack in your back office. You get it in the class in a box. There's a lot of different ways to get it. So when Laura Jacobs talked from the front, this is what she uses. She's a brilliant mind. I've really honestly never listened to somebody speak in such a way. If I were attending her follow-up appointment, I would probably have a hard time following it, but she did have some good nuggets. So if you just kind of bear with me, the people who use the Live Guide really are, the goal is to just read from it. So if you're like, that template that I had in the Google Doc is too open, I don't know the verbiage or what to add in, then you just use the Live Guide and you read from it, okay? But being able to like congratulate them, like, right, you made this decision, you're entering into this lifestyle, but this beginning part she feels is the most important for setting up the framework. And I actually had never noticed this, right? Because I don't necessarily use this tool all the time. This 80%, right? So she calls it, she says in doTERRA, we believe in a different kind of 80-20 plan. We believe with a book and a box of doTERRA quality CPTG oils, you can solve a minimum of 80% of your health priorities at home. So she likes to give them that vision, set that expectation, right? See themselves in that they can achieve that possibility. For the wellness pyramid, right? We talked about being able to rank them, all of that. She says, so the bottom 4 sections, right? See how those are labeled lifestyle? See how it's along in this arrow right there? So those are labeled lifestyle. And the top are labeled healthcare. So she points that out so that they understand the difference there, and that we're teaching people to live the lifestyle, that's the focus as their primary choice. And you'll have a lot less symptoms to manage that way, is what she says. And then the bottom of this obviously is the bread and butter. It's our bread and butter, the lifelong vitality pack. So being able to talk about that and make sure that they understand the value of that. She calls herself a tour guide. She says, I'm going to take you on a tour of the doTERRA lifestyle. I like that. I thought that was really good. Questions so far? Okay. You can see then how it walks you, right? If they were like, oh, I really want to work on eating right? You have, hopefully all of you have seen a Live guide. They really are beautiful. They're well done. They have beautiful recipes. I have no issue with them. I have zero issue. This is totally, I think, really just preference on how you want to do it and where you're at. Okay. Okay. So it's going through, these are all the levels of the pyramid that we're going through. It talks about the cleanse in there. I think it's good for people to know. I mean, some people hop onto that right away, but it's good for people to just know that that's an option, right? Otherwise, they don't really know. And then it walks them through loyalty rewards. I'm going to get to the loyalty rewards page here in a minute. Oh, targeted support. We know how on that wellness pyramid, we talked about informed self-care. So this is where it shows them, right? Like she said, this is where it shows them how to use the top 10 oils for that. So this is a really great, I guess there's more than the top 10 oils in here, but a great breakdown of the oils that you can use. And a lot of them are the top 10 oils, okay? And then creating their wellness plans. So it shows the different LRP packages and different things that you can add on. See the healthy habits, the athlete care, calm and harmony. You know, if you wanted to reduce your toxic load, these are the things you would be adding on, right? So you can really customize their LRP and their wish list really beautifully with this. They can still write down their health goals for themselves, look for you and for your family, their goals, natural solutions they have or need. You can make their wellness plan, just like we talked about in the Google Doc, and help them map out 3 months of loyalty rewards program. Which is true. And I think my mom does this really well. She always says, like a doctor, like, give me 90 days, give me 90 days, and we can turn this around, which is really true. If somebody commits to 90 days of consistent use, yeah, there's going to be significant results from that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? I'm going to look at my Lord Jacobs and make sure I'm not missing anything. There's more here. Right, lifelong vitality pack. There's an FAQ. There's a lot of information here. Usage tips so they don't put bergamot on and go out in the sun. Oh, guys, let's smell our bergamot. Okay, go quick. Put a drop in your hand. I meant to say that earlier. Rub your hands together. Breathe that in. Okay, so I picked this oil for you because it's the oil of confidence, and I think that you need that in all sorts of areas. But I think that this is like a key. There are lots of people who I know who can enroll people like crazy and like lack the confidence to infuse enough value in this and actually be like, I am valuable, my time is valuable, and I'm going to share great things with you. Lack that confidence and don't go over this process. Don't do the wellness consult. So that's why I wanted you to use your bergamot. Okay, it's the oil of confidence. Okay, and then here you're going to see it does talk at the end about like changing other people's lives, right? So whether you say it like, listen, I know that people are going to be asking you about your oils. It's inevitable. Somebody's going to ask you, and so we should talk about what your options are when somebody asks you about your oils. Or, hey, I know you said you wanted to host a class or, you know, when we were together at the class, you know, you really love that keychain. Let's talk about that. Let's set that up. Maybe they've already agreed and you need to talk about the details. Emily, I think, does a good job. You know how we talked about it's always good to give 2 options. We haven't talked about that, but pretend we have. Some of you know that. And so her 2 options are, you can either host a class or you can like refer me to people, connect me to people that way. And so even spins it that way. Instead of being like, would you like to host a class? Yes or no. So there's a lot of different ways you can word this, but you do need to in some way address that people are going to ask you about your oils, or who can you connect me to, because it's good for them and it's also helpful for you to have people to talk to. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that? No questions. Okay, I'm looking at the chat box to make sure I haven't missed anything. Yeah, when you start going through the wellness pyramid, or even some of the other products in that Live Guide, people are like, oh, I didn't know that doTERRA had more than just oil. You know, like there's some really great products. So yes. Yes, the Healthy Habits Kit. I think, I'm pretty sure Laura Jacobs said almost every month, all her month 1 LRPs are like the Healthy Habits Kit. Yeah, this is true. Mom, you're right that it's always good. I remember you came back to Gary and I, and you gave us a wellness consult. We'd been enrolled for probably 2 years. I still have that somewhere, actually. We went through health goals, things we could work on. So this is a great tool, not just for your new customers, but for your current customers, right? This is always a good tool. And there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, I really would love, I need to practice this. I need to get better at this. And I'd like to be able to help you with what you have. Like, can you help me out? I'll help you out, right? Everybody wins.
It's great to go back and do this with people. I'm always shocked when I look at this, at what a great tool it is. And I will say that recently, Amy asked me what I was using for a certain thing going on in our family. And I was like, I haven't even thought about using an oil for it. And she was like, what? And I think it's really easy if we're honest. We focus on other things. We're helping a million people and we forget. So, you know, that we should all be working with each other to gently remind and encourage to be using our own products.
It's true. You know, I was just thinking today as I was sitting down, these have been some emotionally loaded days for me. And I'm like, I haven't put an oil on for it, which is just laughable. I mean, we've diffused oils. I've used them for like the things I usually, but I like haven't put an oil on for it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So we all do it, right? Meg says, would you want to get a copy to check on like of the Live Guide or of, so part of the Google, I like the Google Doc because I always have the copy, right? Or I can like be like, take a picture and send it to me. So if you're not face to face with them and you're going over the Live Guide, I would ask for a picture, or I would ask for some way to, right? If you're not going to be face to face, and I think you could say something as easy as like, my goal is always to care for you the best way possible. So can you just shoot me a copy of that so I make sure I have that? And so I'm always caring for you well according to what you want. Like, right? Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, send me a picture of your stuff. You know, I'm not saying you would do that, but you know, making sure that you incorporate some of the things we've talked about into that. Good. Those are good questions. Okay. Follow-up appointments. Just 1 second. I don't think there's necessarily anything out of the Back to Basics workbook that's different from what we've talked about. She has some different verbiage on page 28 that I think is good too. Obviously, I think her LLV, how she does that is great. I like how she says the LRP, it's like frequent flyer miles, but you get 10 to 30% back, right? Instead of the usual 2%. Emily talked about it's a great way to try new products. You can customize your order each month. Some of us have started to refer to it as your monthly wellness box, right? And I think that's because it is like, that's a phrase that makes a lot of sense to people who are getting like monthly shipments of things like wine and coffee and makeup and things for their animal and underwear. And I don't know, there's so many things, right? So it's your monthly wellness box. And then, yeah, even Elise talks about setting up an example LRP order, showing them how to do it. I show them where they'll see their points drop in, like, oh, you've already got some shipping rewards points, like all of those things, and walking that through. Okay. Okay. I think it's really good. I'm really good. I mean, I can't imagine boring you with one more detail about a follow-up appointment. Could you imagine me actually boring you with one more detail? Oh, I just pulled up a document for a follow-up appointment that I had a no-show to. That's cool. Better go reschedule that. See, it happens to all of us. Okay. Okay. So, so Sonia had a lot of faith in me that I was going to give you guys one specific way to do this, that I was really going to pull through for her. And clearly what I gave you was a buffet of different ways you can do it. So she might not, she's like over there like, boo. No, not really. Maybe. So I realized that there were a lot of different ways to spin that. There are different tools you can use, but I hope you can see the overlapping principles and the different, like the big rocks that we talked about. And if you are in a position where you're like, I don't individualize and customize well, I don't want to do that, I need to know like an outline and how to say this and what to do, my recommendations are reading out of the Live Guide and practicing that, right? Or setting a time, right, to work with your leader and work on an outline that felt really good. This does take practice. This doesn't just happen overnight. Okay, so that would be my advice on that. For those of you who like buffets, you're welcome. And then as far as like what's next after the follow-up appointment, I mean, we talked about, right, additional interactions. So we're going to talk more next week about continuing education, which is going to be a really key piece of this. But I thought this was, Laura Jacobs said that she follows up again for sure at 30, 60, 90 days, with at the very least one more wellness consult, right? But she likes to do 30, 60, 90 days. And this, you would have to know her to hear her saying this, but she's just said, we teach obedience. These customers, she said, they need me to tell them what to do, but also to invite them to think for themselves. So 2 weeks later, right? So at that first wellness consult, they're like, tell me everything to do. I know nothing. For the most part, that's what you're going to get. And then 2 weeks later, at your 30-day check-in, they're going to come back and they're going to be like, I have questions. Well, I use this, but should I use this? And then I looked this up in the book, and I like things evolve. You're going to see them start to ask questions and gain confidence and move into that doTERRA lifestyle, right? But they don't know that in the very beginning. Okay. So that's also what's important about those additional interactions. Okay. Any final questions? I can then share our homework. If we don't have any other questions, I'll make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm going to share my.
Can I ask you a question, Amy?
Yeah, go for it, Sue.
I was just curious, at the 30, 60, and 90 days, I tend to overwhelm because like I know stuff, but not like all in organized fashion. Is there something organized that you give them at the 30, the 60, and the 90 days so that you can like hone in but not freak them out?
That's a really good question. I don't have an outline because it's so specific to like what I will try to do is if I get off, every time I get off an interaction, I do try and set something up. So let's say I got off a wellness consult and I set up the next time to meet, right? So it's in my calendar, or I've made a note like, in 15 days, like text, it's like an event in my phone, text so-and-so or call so-and-so and see how it's going. So it's very much like organic in being like, okay, what's come up? What are you using? What are you not using? Maybe when we want to sit down and have a coffee date, maybe it's just a phone call. So it's just that continued process of the keys being, what are you using? What's working well? What's not working well? What are you not using that you want to be using? Those kinds of things. It might even be just putting a reminder in your phone before their LRP ships those first couple of months to help them with that and help set a reminder just as that extra touch. So again, that was a buffet. That wasn't a specific answer, but it's just some of those things, reoccurring questions that you keep asking. Did I make it worse, Sue? Give me a thumbs up. Laura Whip says she uses the spreadsheet of her names list to keep track of the interactions and what is next for that customer. Yeah, totally. I like that, M too.
I had gotten a book from Heidi, like literally, I think Heidi gave it to those of us who attended a retreat like 5 years ago. and it has protocols listed for 30, 60, and 90 days, like 90-day protocol book. And I think it's over at Superior Street Wellness. I usually have it here, but that's really nice to look at. And Amy, do you remember at Leadership last year, there was a lady that spoke in a breakout session, and she talked all about, here's your 30-day, here's your 60-day, here's your 90-day protocol. And I will say that I definitely get buy-in when I look somebody in the eye and say, can you give me 90 days? Has what you've been doing worked? And they just look at me and they're like, this is going to cost so much less than what I'm going to be doing. So if you can find out your sweet spot on what you would offer for 30, 60, 90 day, but at the very minimal, get them to commit to 90 days with you, then you've really got your foot in the door.
Danielle just asked, right, or just said the biggest hurdle is getting them to put something on the calendar for the wellness consult and to come. So I know but this is just so fresh, right? And it's so like, it's exactly the model we've been talking about. So, and M's class that she taught that we were at, 6 people enrolled, 9 people were there. And she walked around with her calendar and set 6 wellness consults. Did you not? Did anybody say no to the follow-up appointment? No. And so, do you want to talk a little bit about what you said? Again, that's kind of like as the conversation is happening, but maybe some key phrases that you use, but you like literally, well, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I can't remember where, I think it might have been a merge. I don't remember where the exact outline was or phrasing, but like, I don't phrase it as an option. Like, after somebody fills out the form, I'm like, okay, perfect. This will be coming in the mail to you. The next step is like, here, it's not like, hey, when are you free? Here's what I want to do. It's like, this is the next step. We're going to plan it. So I always have my calendar with me. So the next step is we're going to set up this wellness consult. I usually say a follow-up appointment. We're going to go through your oils. I'm going to show you how to order. I'm going to, like, if you choose to get something in the future, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I usually say it's not rocket science, but sometimes it's nice to have somebody walk you through it. And then we choose a date. And I say, would you rather do it in person or online? Here's when I'm free. And so, yeah, I didn't have anybody, because I intentionally phrase it as like, this is what we're going to do next. We're going to plan it right now. Sometimes, obviously there's definitely been people who've been like, yeah, I'll let you know, or like, yeah, I don't know, or they plan it and they cancel or whatever. But getting it on the calendar gets rid of a lot of those hurdles right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. On page 24 in your workbook is how she schedules the wellness consult, her outline for it at the end of the class. And she says, because you're investing in your health, I want to invest in you. I know you're excited about your oils right now, but I promise by the time you receive your oils, you're going to forget a lot of the things that we talked about. So I'd be willing to come to your house after your oils arrive and show you exactly how to use them. We'll create a morning, afternoon, and evening protocol for you. And we can even do this for everyone in your family if you would like. This is called a wellness consult, and I'm willing to do it for free because I want you to get the best results possible. It's always best to do it in your home because I can show you exactly how the oils would work around your house, right? So it really is, yes, you're always going to have outliers, people who will give you a hard time or not show up. Like, it's always going to happen. But if you skill up and are saying something like that and following this process, it will be less and less. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that outline is on page 24. I think it's a really good outline. Okay, so your homework, I'll watch, I don't know, did I miss any other questions? Your homework for this week is to do a wellness consult, a lifestyle overview, a follow-up appointment, a kit unboxing. So this either can be for somebody who's a new enrollment, who's ready to go, right? Like a live one. This can be something that you practice with somebody that you love, a child, a husband, a pet, right? A screen that you're just recording to. I'm fine with that. You might set up a coaching call with somebody, your leader, and record going over it. But the other option I would give you is sincerely to say to a current customer, like, I am working on doing this better. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's set up a coffee date or a Zoom, and to offer that to a current customer, because there is so much value in that too. Do not overlook that. There is so much value. Okay. So your homework is to do that. Post your evidence of whatever way, shape, or form into the group when I post the recording. Does anybody have any questions about that, or does that make sense? Remember, if you want to, you can keep following along in the daily mentor calls, okay? Those can be really helpful reinforcement, so don't hesitate to do that. And then last week is our last week. It's week 5. We're going to do continuing education, and I'm looking forward to that one for sure. So keep hanging in there. Oh, and there's a video of the wellness consult being done in the mentor calls. I'm on call 22, working on it. Okay. You guys have a great night, okay? Have a good week. I'll post a recording. We'll talk to you next Sunday.